Hey y'all, welcome to episode 2 of Made It to Medicine with your girl Ada Baby. So I know in the video yesterday I said that episode 2 was going to be about like post-bac versus masters or whatever, but I lied. Today we're going to talk about MCAT journey. I am going to talk about post-bac versus masters, whatever, but I want to talk about my MCAT journey and my MCAT scores and literally show you guys my school report, because a lot of people have been asking. I know that that's obviously like an important aspect of your application. So that's what I'm going to share with y'all today. I want to give a disclaimer that, number one, we're all about transparency over here on my side of TikTok. So because of that, it's not going to be the easiest. However, I don't really care no more about like my scores and my stats and everything, because I've entered the medical school. Do you get? So I don't have no shame when it comes to this matter, but it doesn't mean that it's any easier for me, because it's still, you know, quite sensitive. So keep that in mind. This transparency is really to educate and help and encourage and give people hope. It's not for people to come and talk shit. Let me just put that out there. So without further ado, let's talk about the MCAT. So I took the MCAT twice. I took it once in August of 2021, yes, and then again January 2023. So I took it twice. Both times I got the same score. However, I scored like between the first and the second time in the different categories. My scores changed in some of them. Like the score for each section, it changed. Okay. So in terms of how I studied, the first time that I took the MCAT, I overdid it with the content review. So I was just reviewing content too much. I was taking up too much time reviewing content, when in all actuality, the MCAT is really about knowing how to take the test. Like, that is how you are successful. Not to say that content is not important. Please do not get me wrong. But it is more about knowing how to take the test, in my personal opinion. So the first time I really overdid it with the content review, and I didn't do enough practice questions and practice exams or whatever. Another thing is, you really want to build up your stamina to take the test, because that test is 7.5 hours and it's no beans. Do you get? The second time I took the exam, I made sure that while I was studying for that period, that I was just doing questions. And I feel like that really helped me. It helped me build my confidence. It helped me learn how like the test takers or the test makers think or whatever. And I honestly learned my content through doing a lot of practice questions, to be so fair, and doing practice examinations. But I really did not focus on trying to build my stamina. And I think that's also a place where I lacked as well. But I did feel a lot better about taking the MCAT the second time than the first time. The first time, obviously, like, that's the first time you're taking the MCAT big exam or whatever the case may be. I was also admitted into the emergency room literally 24 hours before my exam. So like, I was going into that exam with a lot of anxiety. I literally only had one arm to use to take the exam. It's a long story, but the first time just wasn't the best time for me. The second time I felt a lot better about it and all of that. In terms of how long I studied for the exam, both times I allotted about 3 to 4 months to study. I think really like 3.5 to 4 months. And that is just what works for me. Anything longer than 4 months for me is kind of too long. I know people that have studied for the MCAT for like 6 months, 7. To me, you don't need that long. But that's me. Please, like, take what I'm saying with a grain of salt. Please, please, please don't come and carry and say, oh, I said only study. No. Do what you feel is best for you. Another piece of advice that I would give is that you need to allot a dedicated amount of time. So that means that I wouldn't really recommend like doing coursework along with studying for the MCAT. The first time that I took it, I was taking a summer class for my master's, and I was studying and I felt like I could handle that. I feel like you could probably do the same, like if you're in college or post-bac, master's, whatever the case may be. The second time that I took it, that was all that I was only studying. I was working, but I was only studying for the MCAT. I didn't have any coursework. So be very brutally honest with yourself in how much you can handle with doing coursework and also studying for the MCAT, because the MCAT is literally a whole nother course in and of itself. So now without further ado, let me show you my score. Let me show you my scores. Oh my God, I can't believe I'm doing this, but whatever. Okay, so this is my score report from August 2021. So I'm I can't believe I'm doing this right now. As you can see, my total MCAT score was a 483. Look at, the breakdowns or whatever. But this is the first time that I took it. The first time. Let me show you the second time. So the second time, same score, but you can see what I'm talking about, where like I did better in some areas. Like I know in cars I got like 2 points higher. Chem came down 1 point. Bio came down 1 point. I think social behavior, all of that actually stayed the same. But this was my second time this January when I took it. Yeah. So those are my scores. Now, looking at my scores, you're probably wondering why I did not take it a third time. Just by looking, being honest and looking at my scores, you're like, that's low. And it is, and I know it is. But the reason why I decided I was not going to take the MCAT a third time is because I did not have the mental capacity to do so. To be so brutally honest, I didn't want to do it again. I don't have the mental capacity to do so. Like, I was over it. And in episode 3, I'm going to talk to you about why I could make that decision and how that decision led me to where I am today, which is medical school. So I'm going to talk about that in episode 3, because I feel like after kind of talking about my MCAT and seeing the score, you're probably wondering like, okay, like how are you in medical school right now, which is fair. So I'm actually going to address that next. So yeah, I hope that helps somebody. I hope that the transparency helps you, encourages you, lets you know that this is not impossible. But yeah, follow for more and see y'all in episode 3.